welcome back, everybody. You're America's favorite Republican and America's favorite Democrat over there. So welcome back, everybody. But yeah, we just want to try to bring a few current events to everyone's table and discuss them a little bit from two different sides of the aisle. And one of them being the nuclear submarine deal. Apparently, Joe Biden, our president, was on a class trip out in California, and he had a couple topics out there that he decided to talk about. One of them being the nuclear submarine deal with Australia. So there was a meeting with Anthony Albanese, I guess the Australian. Not sure if he's called president or prime minister or whatever he is.
Prime minister, yeah.
Rishi Sunak from Britain. So they apparently, in 2021, they started inking this deal that we were going to supply some of our nuclear technology to Australia and help them create a better system for their nuclear submarine program, which apparently they have some antique things at the moment that, still run on diesel fuel and all that. And they want to kind of get up to par with that. And I'm okay with that. It is, though, the first time in 65 years, I believe, that we've given nuclear technology away in this country. I do not agree with that. We have also given it to England, and that was a long time ago, back in the late 50s, I believe. So I can't say I'm on board with that at all. And I feel like at this point, we're just kind of poking the bear a little bit with China. Part of this is Joe Biden. I guess all three of them, really, you could combine them. Their idea is that this is going to help deflect any problems in Indochina with the Chinese. But the other issue that I have is none of this even takes effect for 10 years. It's a 3 submarine deal, up to 5 possibly, and this could take well into the next 30 years to accomplish this. My problem is with my government as part of this is this everything that our government does, everybody needs to understand this, costs you and I money. It's everything they do comes from our tax money. And I don't see the immediate effect of trying to do nuclear power and give them that technology in Australia to try to ward off any problems with China. There's so much time there. You're talking a minimum of 10 years. So I think it's just a little game. We're playing a little shell game. We're playing to try to stoke the fire here of a potential another world war. That's my opinion.
I agree with the deal. I know it's been a while since we've given any, nuclear or submarine nuclear technology to any other nation or any submarine technology, period. The last nation was actually United Kingdom. So, but in this sense, I definitely agree. It'll help keep China in check. That's one of the big factors in the region, and that's going to continue to be a big factor. China's building up their Navy. They're definitely going to be much stronger in 10 years than they are now. China's got tremendous shipbuilding abilities, and they're just starting to ramp that up. So it's taken a while. They're nothing like on par with the United States level. We still own the oceans. However, looking in the future, just like China does, they operate on a 100-year plan. We need to start looking out further. One of the things I did want to mention, though, it's because people hear nuclear submarine, you think these submarines are going to be nuclear powered, but they're not nuclear armed. So according to the deal that was drafted, it's not. It's just going to be carrying conventional missiles, just being powered nuclear by a nuclear power plant. So that'll allow it to just roam the seas, and basically it can stay out as long as they have food. That's the only limiting factor: food and manpower. So definitely agree with it. It'll help put China in check. I know it will cost American taxpayers dollars at the beginning, but it's also part of a tradition that we have in this country. We are the biggest arms sellers on earth. There's nobody that comes close. Nuclear or any submarines we really keep within. There's only, I believe there's one, the Electric Boat Company is the only company that makes submarines for the United States. So it'll help them. It'll help, the economy around that company as well. And I think it'll be a big boost. So it's just one of those things that Australia has been a partner, an ally of ours for years. They fought with us in since World War II, all the conflicts ever since. So it only makes sense. There's one of our strongest allies. We gave it to the UK. I'm okay with letting Australia get it.
I don't have an overall huge problem with the deal. I think we do have to kind of keep our presence around the world. So I have issues with parts of it as you dice it up into different sections. Overall, I don't see a big issue. My biggest issue is I don't see the immediate effects of it in terms of warding off China and what their plans are in the Indo-Pacific region. Do I agree that we need to challenge them as best we can? Yes, but in 10 years, at the very minimum for the first submarine to roll out, I don't know if we're going to be able to, if anything's going to make sense to me in terms of that period of time, in terms of the here and now for today. But overall, I really don't have that big of an issue with it. Just have some small snippet problems here and there. Other than that, I'm okay with it for the most part.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the bill can always be refined, and we can definitely, I'm sure there's things that we can negotiate with and just kind of before the final deal goes through. But nuclear submarines, they do take a while to build. Even our submarines, anything, it's always a long pipeline. Nuclear submarines, aircraft carriers, anything like that is always a long term. And it's good that it doesn't just span like one administration. It's going to keep going. Hopefully, the next administration, they won't kill it off or whatever, and we see the deal go through. But yeah, in general, it can always be refined. But I don't see a problem with arming Australia with nuclear powered submarines.
Yeah, part of what we're trying to do here is just bring topics to the table and give everybody the idea how we can discuss these things as normal Americans and how it affects us in our daily lives, because everything that goes on, everything our government does around the world, in turn, in my opinion, does affect us, you and me, right down to our own living rooms. So,
Yeah.
we all have to keep that in mind that everything affects us. And we all need to be engaged in what's happening that's going to affect us, no matter how
Yeah, this
dry
this
the
will
topic
definitely
is.
exactly. This will definitely affect. Every time a submarine gets built, there are thousands of jobs that are created. I mean, submarine is not just the actual submarine itself; it's all the systems within it, technology, uh, all types of things, the trades. So there's thousands of jobs that come along with this. As I mentioned, that Electric Boat Company is the only company that makes submarines for the United States. They are pretty much a government funded operation there. So it'll help. It's one of those things. It'll help the economy, especially the local economy. I believe they're based out of Connecticut, but it will. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and
I don't see a
those
problem
are good, solid jobs. I mean, you start getting into the
for sure.
shipbuilding industry, good, solid jobs. So, I mean, are
Yeah.
there negatives to some of this? I believe yes. Are there probably more positives? I would agree that there are, because again, it does directly affect us, and those people that are going to get those jobs. I think they're going to be doing well for themselves and their family, and they're going to be long term jobs. They're not going to be something that's over in a weekend.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
So
on
we
to
we
the
mostly agree with that.
Yeah. On to the second topic. During Biden's little trip out there to California, he also brought up another topic about a hotly contested item in this country, which would be our Second Amendment rights and our gun control issues. So we're back to square one. The Democrats, want to pretty much, in my opinion, take all of our Second Amendment rights away. I disagree with that. I disagree with Joe. You want to lead us into that topic a little bit and see if we have any disagreements on the Second Amendment. And everyone out there, remember, he is a Democrat. So I'm kind of curious to see where this conversation is going to go here.
Yeah, and this is where a lot of people are gonna be angry with me or not agree with me. I am a huge supporter of the Second Amendment. It's probably one of the things that where me and Chris
Wait a
started
minute.
talking about first.
Wait. A Democrat, huge supporter of the Second Amendment. What, did I just hear you right?
I know,
Say that again,
I
John,
know,
so everybody
it's
hears that.
crazy to hear. I'm a huge supporter of the Second Amendment. I believe everybody should exercise that right. It's one of the few rights that's inscribed, one of the first ones that's inscribed in the Constitution. So you will see me on this show 9 times out of 10 defend gun rights. I just strongly believe. I live currently in Maryland, where it is extremely difficult to own a weapon, get licensed for it, and even worse, to get concealed carry. Up until that Supreme Court decision recently with the New York Gun and Rifle Club, they in Maryland, you had to be approved. You had to show good cause to be able to conceal carry, and it was basically an old boys club. The police, would decide whether or not they want to issue you a gun. Plenty of anecdotal cases. I've had tons of friends that have gone out to apply for it, or if they know a cop, your process will go a lot quicker. If you don't know a cop, you're going to get entangled in red tape. So, any restrictions to gun ownership, I generally don't support. This background check in particular, it was an executive order that he passed. So this executive order, it basically it doesn't add any new laws to the books. What it does is the current background checks that they do when you go buy a gun or rifle, they are just trying to make sure that those actually get done. So he just passed an executive order. It's more just reinforcing the laws that are on the books currently. I do believe, I believe in the background checks. I believe, we can't have serial killers or something out there, or wife abusers, anything like that, being able to get access to weapons. I do believe there are some restrictions to it. However, for the most part, there shouldn't be. I mean, everyone should have the right to conceal carry in this country. There shouldn't be many barriers to this at all, other than if you have any, violent felonies on your record or anything like that. I also don't believe just having a felony. There's many financial crimes, things like that, where it has nothing to do with crime, with violence, and that restricts your ability to own weapons. So I also don't believe in that. But
Right. Well,
in this case, in the background checks, it's not bad. It's just reinforcing the laws that are currently on the books. I think most people can agree with them, and it's kind of a common sense thing just to do the job that are already on the books.
yeah, and well said. I mean, and I think that just dispelled a lot of people's idea that Democrats are all anti Second Amendment. And I would suspect you're not the only one in the country as a Democrat that fully supports
Absolutely
our
not.
constitutional right to have weapons.
There's a bunch. We're not just
That being
it's
said,
not a binary thing.
for anyone that doesn't know, basically the Second Amendment says our rights to have weapons shall not be infringed. And that's that. There's no discussion to be had by Joe Biden or Donald Trump or Barack Obama or George Bush or any president. There's no discussion to be had. In my opinion, the Second Amendment is very, very clear. Now, does that mean we should just run around like the Wild West? No, absolutely not. We do need common sense rules. And, a couple things that he brought to the table with this, to me, it's just talking points. Because we already have a lot of this, the common sense part of this, in my opinion. Do we need more? Yeah, but this is just optics, for him to try to start planting the seed.
It really is.
Running again for the next presidential election. And it's a big Democrat talking point. But there was one item in there that I did agree with. And again, if you go and you can find all these executive orders online, they get lengthy, they get complicated. It's basically any president's way of going around the Constitution unilaterally. There's really no constitutional provision for these. I can't say I agree with executive orders for any president. And if you go back and look at them from day one, every single president from George Washington has done an executive order. The funny part to me is if you go back and look at the very beginning, from George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, so on and so forth, all the way up to Joe Biden, there comes a point for the last, I want to say maybe 8 to 10 presidents where they're signing them in the hundreds. Okay. Back in the day,
they skyrocket. Yes.
Our founding fathers were signing them 1, 2, 3, maybe 10. That to me is a problem. Okay. Because are we overusing our authority a little bit as the president of the United States on either side? But basically back to the original point of what started this conversation. Joe decided to pen this executive order, and basically there's nothing there's no more new news here, except there was an issue with that I did agree with. It was called the boyfriend clause. Basically what that meant is if you're married, you commit domestic violence or something like that, you can pretty much have your gun rights taken away. According to what I read, that doesn't apply if you're just in a relationship as boyfriend, girlfriend. And I happen to agree with that, as much as it pains me to agree with anything Joe Biden has to say. There are some things that make sense to me. That's one of the very, very, very few things he said that make sense to me, and I highly doubt that came from him. It probably came from one of his staff. This entire order probably didn't come from him at all. He's using it as talking points and optics to divide us, in my opinion, because it's a dividing topic. The gun laws. Uh,
It really is, and this executive order is largely symbolic. It really it just as I mentioned, just strengthening the laws that are on record. So it's not adding anything new. The boyfriend clause that is a new thing to it, but it's more of a common sense. If you know you're beating your wife, you're accused of that, that's another thing where it. As soon as that trial is over, or you get proven guilty, not guilty, if you are not guilty, if you're acquitted of that, it should be immediately returned back to you. Any rights that you may have lost should be immediately returned. So as long as we're able to maintain that part, people aren't just arbitrarily getting their gun rights taken away. I'm okay with it.
yeah, I agree. The last point I want to make on this is the CDC. Believe it or not, the Center for Disease Control actually monitors a lot of these numbers of gun deaths in America. And I got this information off of the Pew Research, which actually takes all of the information from the CDC and kind of breaks it down and compartmentalizes it to actual gun fatalities. They're a little bit behind as far as the CDC goes, but just so people can keep an idea here in the back of their mind, when our government officials are telling you, oh, mass shootings and assault rifles and all this stuff, they all love to talk about it, but very few of them have any idea what they're talking about. So one of the numbers I have here is this goes from 2020. I don't know if 2021 information, I couldn't find any. Josh, if you have or could or know any of it, correct me if I'm wrong. But this information from 2020, directly from our CDC government-run office, 45,222 gun deaths, give or take a couple, based on their accuracy. Out of those, 54% of those, 24,292, were actually suicide. Unfortunately, that's a horrific number, but that doesn't have anything to do with me or you or anybody else being criminals with our guns. That's a pretty fascinating number to me. As you listen to our politicians talk, and they would lead you to believe that there's nothing but people out there doing OK gunfights at the OK Corral. That's just simply not true. And there are some other numbers that go with that, law enforcement shootings. There are some other metrics in that number, but I gave you the two most overwhelming numbers to me in terms of how many thousands. The last part of that is a lot of these criminal activity are actually done with a handgun. 3% of these numbers actually come from the so-called assault rifle, which is a big problem. And that's what you hear the Democrat Party mostly talking about. Oh, we've got to ban assault rifles. Well, guess what? No, you're not. No, you're not. We have a right to have those anytime we want in this country. And that's just that. There's no debate to be had. And those numbers don't lie. They come right from a government office. You can't deny those numbers. Period.
Yeah, yeah. That that part I agree with. It's we can't just regulate these problems away. It's definitely a national problem. It's a problem that only we have. It's a right that not many other countries do have. It's not enshrined in anybody else's constitution that I'm aware of, anyways. But any major country, we are the only ones that have that enshrined. It's our second right in the Constitution. It shall not be infringed. There are things I know that, if you look at the CDC numbers or anything like that, the percentage of children dying due to gun deaths, I believe it's the number one leading cause of death among children. That should be, that we definitely have to get a control on that. We have to study the reasons why it's happening, where, any hot spots where this may be happening, be able to correct that. But I got to remind you guys, criminals don't follow the law. It's illegal to murder somebody. It's illegal to shoot at anybody. All these things are already illegal. By adding laws, all you're doing is just restricting law-abiding citizens from being able to exercise their right, their constitutional right. It's not a law; it's a right in this country. So One of the things that, rarely me and Chris will agree on, you guys will see this more throughout the show and know the reasons why. But generally, I strongly, I'm a strong backer of the Second Amendment.
Well, that being said, that's straight from your own mouth. I didn't put the words in your mouth. And everybody out there that wants to see us continuously disagree, that's not going to happen all the time. This particular video, we're going to give everybody a break from the long videos. Encourage everyone that came back this week to go back and watch our first two. This is our third one. So we're going to kind of wrap this one up today, give everybody a little break of our half hour plus videos. And, we're not always going to disagree. And this is a perfect example of that. And the people that want to just see us in the squared circle, it's not going to happen all the time. There are going to be times where we're going to be in the squared circle. But we hope everybody just listens to us. And the whole point here is we actually aren't as different as everyone is led to believe. That's part of our mission here.